Hey, and welcome to Keep Sane, cheaper than therapy for me. Uh, anyway, today we're gonna go over episode 14, and it's gonna be religion. Um, gonna pretty much go over I should just say most of my thoughts on the subject. And before I get too far, I'm just gonna go ahead and put out there that it is my belief that there is no God, and that I don't like religion. Um, with that said, I am also going to say that it has nothing to do with me being against people who find strength from it. I know people that wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for their religion, so I'm not trying to stop people from believing. I am trying to ask them to at least realize if someone doesn't believe what you believe, to leave it alone. Focus on what makes you a better person, more accepting person, and if you get angry because of your religion over something else, then evaluate it. Also, don't try to stop other people from being who they are because you believe you need to be their moral compass. Um, Murder for the sake of murder is wrong, but at the same time, there's no such thing as sanctity of life when it comes to a mass murderer staying alive. His life does not matter. He or she made that decision when they decided to start eradicating people randomly. Um, I don't think there's any need for anybody to feel bad over getting rid of that person. And if you're religious, think about this. You may not like that statement I just said, but you've gone to war and killed more people than religions have killed each other over religious ideologies more than anything else. Um, so you really can't get on a soapbox on this one. Um, Again, I'm not really trying to pick fights. What I'm trying to do is have you think about your ideology and why it starts conflict and anger instead of, you know, even if it's just acceptance and, you know, not believing in it, feel sad for someone if you think their beliefs are going to send them to hell. Also know that hell is a construct of Christianity. Um, if you're Jewish, unless I'm wrong here, uh, even comedians that have and all that pretty much say they don't believe in hell. Um, I haven't studied religions of the world, but if you're afraid someone's going to go to hell, their religion's, I believe, older than yours, and they don't believe in hell. So not only is it man-made, it's man-made by your version of God. Um, there's some great books. God-Shaped Hole. I've perused. Sadly, I haven't read thoroughly. I've talked, I think, a number of times of difficulty I have reading. Um, so I do try to read a bit, but I don't tend to get through a whole lot. Otherwise, it would take me forever to get through anything. Um, I read a lot of cliff notes and technical documents. Listen to a lot of people speak. So while my terminology may not be accurate, I do try to have concepts down. Because really, that's all this stuff is. These are all concepts. Even if you believe your religion is absolutely true, regardless of scientific fact, there are versions of your religion that ruin it for you. If you are of the more open minded variety, if you believe women can be religious leaders, if you believe their place isn't at home being subservient, if you believe that gay is natural and not a choice that you can send a, pray away the gay sort of stuff, you know, there's plenty of things we don't understand. There's going to be things I talk about on here that may sound ignorant, but ultimately, I want a conversation. I want someone to tell me, not on religion, but like certain things that, like, I want to know their viewpoint. I want to know how I structured my thought or I guess I could say belief on something, whereas versus how they created theirs. Is it something simply I was told by my parents? Was it something that I read, whether it be and I thought was a more accurate document than it was? There's tons of, I mean, The Onion, I see comments reposted all the time on Onion articles that have that people get furious about, and The Onion is entirely fake news. They know it. It's all parody news. It's not. They flat out say these aren't real things. We're just creating funny stories and funny situations. It's not it's not fact. It is fiction and it's comedy. Um, and along that line, you'll read stuff that you believe, and I don't know, in 100% honesty, I only think I know one or two people that have read most of the actual Bible and just one version of the Bible. I know a couple people that have actually gone to school and read a bunch, but they still went to a Christian school reading Christian works, being taught what those Christian meanings were. Um, so it's not an open-minded evaluation. And they always have stories. The scientist that was a skeptic went in to try to prove it wrong and ended up, part of the church. Stuff like that. And I have a friend that buys me religious books, like, and trying to convince me to believe. And I've never really had even the conversation that I don't believe in God. He just knows I don't go to church, and I definitely don't talk about God. So um, he believes that he can make me a more devout Christian, and he's a way worse person than me. I've never had a Coke problem. I've never cheated. I've never done any of that stuff, and he has done all of that stuff, and probably more than he'll ever tell me. But and I know a number of people like that who, they ask for forgiveness. It's like, well, there's not much I have to ask for forgiveness for. Usually, it's a short temper I'm asking for apologies for, and it's not because I'm beating the crap out of people. It's because I verbally snap at someone, and I have to later apologize for overreacting. I don't apologize for being upset or not liking what they say or what they did or whatever, but my reaction was more than what was necessary, and it's still going to be the case. Um, I'm trying to pull up some information here. Um, let's see, Christianity. I'm just looking at religion of the U.S. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Baha'i faith, Rastafarianism. Oh, I've never even heard of that Baha. Sorry if I'm whoever I'm offending by hacking the name of your religion. Um, see here, first mention is. Yeah, I'm still, again, slow reader, so I'm not really gonna try to read and understand any of this. Apparently, it is a big enough religion in the U.S. to be mentioned. That's under the Abrahamic religions. And then there's the Asian religions: Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, Sikhism, Taoism. Then the no religion, which is where I fall into. The agnostic, atheist. I don't pick one. I don't believe in God. I don't, and after that, I don't know. That's you can throw whatever actual label that is. Um, and here's the thing. I don't believe in the concept of I don't discount the concept of a higher being or race having an impact on our existence. Um, we prove over and over again as humans that we're ignorant as all get out, and self-centered to the nth degree. So I don't know. I just don't believe in any version of man's made God. If anything, if was forced to worship something, I'd pick either Earth or Sun, something that has tangible things that have to do with my ability to exist on this planet. Because I also know if we piss off Earth too much, it's going to kick us off, and kill us all, really easily. So, believe, take with that what you want. I was hoping to kind of find some stats here, and I know I've seen them before. I just can't seem to find numbers of people in religion. I thought I remember hearing or reading something that unaffiliated was like 25 or 30% of the U.S. population. And I don't know if that necessarily means like not believing in God, or if they just don't pick a version of Christianity or whatnot. Um, Let me just type in the USA. See what percentage of Christians. Let's see here. Study by the Pew Research Center: 70.6 of adult population identified themselves as Christian, with 46.5 professing attendance. Um, that would be considered Protestant. So 70% of the people they surveyed were Christian. That doesn't really give me. It says 84% roughly. I don't think this is the same. Oh, same organization. That 84% of the world's inhabitants believe identify with a religion. Well, that'd explain a lot to me about why we keep going to war. Is the world's no religion. Oh, here we go. Let's read this Huffington Post article. No religion is world's third largest religious group after Christians and Muslims. So let's see if I can. Christianity is the most evenly spread religion present in all regions of the world. Hinduism is the least global, with 94% of its population in one country, which is India. Overall, 84% of the world's inhabitants, which is estimated at 6.9 billion. Oh, this was 2012, so this is an old study. Identify with a religion, which I guess would leave 16% of no religion. Let's see, 30% of unaffiliated French adults. Wow. Okay, well, this is too much, for me to go over right now, especially since it's 2012, so it's not really new enough to be stats. I knew it was old when I read the world population. Oh, and by the way, if that identifier of 6.9 billion identified me as to being an old post, that should tell you our population's growing a little fast. Because I believe it's like 8 billion right now, and that's only a few years later. That's a lot of people to strain resources that quickly. Again, different conversation right now, trying to keep to the point of religion. Um, I guess here's one of my other beliefs, and this is probably going to be something that people argue with the most, is I think even though people identify as Christian or spiritual but not religious, which that one always drives me nuts. I don't know why. It's probably another ignorance thing. Um, but I don't really believe those numbers are accurate. I think a lot of them are based on people like me who might say one of the other categories if asked in, in person or pretend. And yeah, that makes me kind of a liar sometimes, white lie to me. I'm avoiding arguments, not being honest. But I think a lot more people, if you truly push for it, would pretty much say they may identify, but they don't really believe, they don't really practice. They just believe in being a good person. They're trying they believe in the teaching as far as the core principles like the Ten Commandments or whatnot. Which if you like George Carlin, he has a great way to whittle that list down. You know, so if you ever want to go back to some of his old stand-up specials, you can listen to some of that. Um, but yeah, really, that's the thing. I totally believe in the core beliefs and not how it always gets played out. Again, I am, you know, anti-religion, believe in the core beliefs, yet things like abortion, I don't believe in the sanctity of life stuff. I believe it's a woman's right to choose. I don't have any thought as a male that I have any right to say what a woman does with her body. Not to mention, if we're a free country, are we really going to take freedoms? I mean, that seems a little stupid to me. Having freedom is the whole point, right? Freedom to choose, freedom of religion. One that tends to get forgotten is separation of church and state. So if you believe in religion should be in a public school, I think you need to read law and learn what that separation means. It's not a race thing. We're not trying to separate people. We're trying to separate ideology out of a knowledge-based environment that gets paid for by federal money. Um, so, which might want to rethink the Pledge of Allegiance because under God is in there, and someone who, like me, doesn't believe in God, almost everybody wants to force that word down your throat. And I'm sorry, I could go to a courthouse right now and I have to put my hand on something besides the Bible because otherwise I'm pretty much lying right there if I don't believe, so I can't put my hand on a Bible. I mean, a courthouse is part of state um, under the judicial arm, if I recall. Um, so why are we swearing on a Bible? How about do you swear to tell the truth for fear of going to jail over lying? Um, Seems to be good enough. I mean, we tend to run on fear anyway. I don't, I do speed occasionally, probably fairly regularly as far as not like speeding. Like if it says 55, I'll probably be doing 60, but you know, most of us don't overspeed. Most of us don't kill our jackass neighbor because we don't want to go to jail, not because we don't think that prick should die. And again, I'm really undermining the sanctity of life on that one. Um, but we all have those things that run through our head, evil thoughts or whatever. But no different than stealing from people. We do it because we fear jail. Well, religion to me is just a mental constraint on additional actions. I mean, I have had people I know that think SpongeBob SquarePants was evil because the characters were gay. They weren't gay, but who cares? They were born naturally gay. It's genetic. It's among every animal species on the planet. Um, you're not gonna. I mean, maybe for a very few, you might be able to teach them to be gay. I don't think so. Or at least not once puberty fully hits. Biology tends to balance itself out. If there's too much population like we have, there tends to be a higher gay population. I don't know if by percentage or just numbers because the percentage in all animal species seems to be stay fairly consistent. So just and people get judged and hated on for being born that way. There's a lot of religious groups that hate different religions. Jewish people have been in the spotlight lately. For what? They were born Jewish. Their parents were Jewish, they're Jewish. Whether they believe in Judaism, that's another question. If you don't believe the in Judaism, that's a different argument. They were born Jewish. They weren't, no different than you being born white. If your parents are white and you're white, you didn't have any say. If you think, Latino skin is better looking or you wish you were black, guess what? You had no say. You were genetically going to be white. Both your parents are white. If one's black and one's white, then you got a shot at a bunch of different shades. But, ultimately, unless there's enough mixing pot, if your parents are white, since we haven't come together in the long haul, you're probably going to have one shot at skin tone. Um, Especially with genetics, depending on the recessive genes in your family. Um, so I don't know. I really get tired of I'll pray for you. Please pray for me. I guess it wasn't meant to be. It's just a bunch of weak-willed shit to me. Well, if it's meant to be, my prayers will be answered or it'll happen. And yeah, a lot of things turn out for people great, but if you think you're going to pass an exam because you prayed the day before, I mean, for fuck's sake, take that time and study. Uh, Knowledge tends to be what passes exams, not anything else. Just use your brain. That's the whole point is using your brain. Common sense seems to be a superpower these days, and the ability to think regardless of the pack around you. I understand keeping your mouth shut because of the pack around you, but not mentally believing it. Believing someone's worse because they were raised, Methodist instead of Baptist, or Catholic and instead of Muslim. I mean, these are things that you decide for your children usually. Very few people, well, I can't say very few people, I have no idea the numbers, tend to be born again without, for some reason, having some serious tragedies. I don't know anybody that became born again that you look back at their childhood and be like, yeah, they had it together, or though they always seem to be missing something. They tend to have really bad relationships or drug problems, or things of that nature that take them to a community. And there's some neat communities that have a religious backbone, but those same communities, want to tell me or tell people that they can and can't do things that everybody else thinks are fine. Again, abortion, TV shows, what we can watch. We all just elected, Trump, who was a lifelong Democrat, as the religious side because he seemed anti-abortion. I mean, I don't know. At this point, I'm just lost at what to say of how do we allow fear to override? I mean, you're people are so fearful, but they don't. But look at everybody else. I mean, the people that don't play by the rules, that don't get caught to go to jail. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things that your faith. I mean, athletes work their ass off. Their parents sacrifice so much, and other than thank you, mom, which as a dad always drives me bonkers because I do so much for my boys. But other than that, I mean, it's, just got to thank God and Jesus, and he made you run doubles. Your lineage might be why you were physically giant. Your work ethic, hopefully, is the reason you're there. If not, thank your ancestors. Don't, you know. Anyway, I'm done. I have nothing else I can say right now that would make any sense. Just please think. Don't, if anything, if you want to be religious, just realize that, you trying to force your ideals onto someone else generally only creates conflict. It doesn't create resolution. And while you may not want to compromise because you're afraid of what's going to happen to the soul of the country or whatever, I mean, let them, let us, by your own view, burn in hell or whatever, because why not? If you feel that strongly, maybe you guys can all get together and have one giant church state, and see if you can get the federal government to allow it, so that way, you can all be the same, which historically is proven bad, just FYI. But you know, like-minded doesn't tend to build a strength. It tends to create frailty and weakness. Um, but yeah, okay, I'm done.